Hey, welcome back. I'm Andy, and today we have a special treat. As of the time this video is uploaded, it is officially October, and I've decided that this month is Spooky Month. By pure chance, I found that I had quite a few horror-themed games that I wanted to make retrospectives on. And hey, what better a time to show them off than Halloween? So if you were wondering why I've been pretty busy the last month, just know that I was rushing to get 4 videos out by the end of this month. And those are just retrospectives. That's right, this is going to be the first of 4 different Halloween videos, all retrospectives on some interesting horror games. I think you guys are going to like them. God, you have no idea how much I rushed to get these out. Hopefully I can get the rest out in time too. I swear, if I have to upload another horror video game days after Halloween, I am going to be so angry. I had to do that with Condemned. I'm not doing it again. Anyway, we're barely in October, so I think we're going to start off light with Aliens. Oh yeah. I like Aliens. I think Alien is probably a better made movie, being a bit slower paced and more about ambiance and tension. I kind of like it a little more, but Aliens is way more of an action thriller. It's got spaceships, marines, scenes where marines shoot at rubber dummies, all the things you could ask for in a movie. Aliens is just a fun romp. Also, Aliens really isn't that Halloween-y of an IP. I mean, sure, it's scary, but to me Halloween needs a little bit more than just being spooky. You need pumpkins, or gothic mansions, or cold autumn overcast evenings. But that's just me. So this game is kind of a good warm-up to some of the real Halloween games I have planned later. A good small step into fall. Aliens Infestation. Aliens Infestation is an official Aliens licensed game from 2011 developed by Wayforward, made exclusively for the Nintendo DS. This was a game that I thought I loved, then replaying I don't know if I still love, and now my fuzzy memory is making me unsure if I even loved it in the first place. There's a lot to talk about, but I think we may as well get in game. Space. Oh yeah, this is a DS game. 2 screens, right. This is the second DS game I've covered on my channel, and I can also guarantee it won't be the last. The DS was a huge part of my childhood. Alright, we're getting a lot of text, but the premise is pretty simple. Basically, we're the B team sent to the Sulaco after the events of Aliens, just to investigate what went wrong. Our leading officer is a guy named Patrick Steele, nicknamed Stainless. Nice. I think I can trust a guy whose name sounds like a wrestler. And we can take control of one of our 4 Marines. Yeah, they're all pretty unique. Like, look at these profile pictures. And they have different armor colors, too. We got Cameron, a grizzled-looking Marine, Whistler, a scrawny-looking kid, Johnston, a tough-looking tomboy, and Paulson, a guy who looks pretty chill, but is huge. Well, I think I recognize a little reference already. Yeah, don't think I didn't notice that Cameron is one of the starting characters, who is also a tough, no-nonsense Marine with clearly a lot of experience. Yeah, I'll start with him. And we're off. Well, the ship seems to be mostly empty. All's quiet. Oh wait, never mind. We have robots? Yeah. No, not synths, just cartoony looking robots. They're bastards too. They can shoot you, which will knock you on your ass. So the only strat that I found is to duck down and dump lead into them until they're no longer standing. This is not a good start to the game. These guys are not fun to fight. I talk about the controls too, but we are not 5 minutes into the game. So I'll bring them up later. Let's keep exploring. We get to a conference room where, boo! I'll admit, this actually startled me the first time I played this game on my DS. Oh yeah, I need to mention this. I'm emulating this game. I actually think that of the DS games out there, this is probably one of the better ones to emulate too, because I can play this on a large monitor in a dark room. Perfect for spooky games like this. And either way, I'm a sucker for emulation. And hey, you guys get to watch this in a nice, crisp HD resolution. I think it's a win-win. But for the video, I'm going to focus almost entirely on the top screen. But I'll show you the bottom screen briefly so you can at least see my HUD. I have a selection of my 4 Marines, my primary weapon, which I can tap to reload, my infinite ammo sidearm, my selection of grenades and explosives, my list of items, and also a pretty useful map, which actually shows you the entire level from the start. So that's pretty good. Also, we can drop up to 4 flares that mark areas of interest. So if we want to backtrack to them, we can easily find them. Hey, that's pretty good stuff. Hell, this is a metroidvania, yet Metroid didn't even have stuff like this until Dread. So that's the HUD. Get a good look, because you won't be seeing it for long. Back to the top screen. We walk through some more generic corridors. This area is really giving me a Metroid Fusion vibe, especially with that space background. I don't know how to describe it. Like the way they implemented the shading, it looks very Game Boy Advanced. I don't know if that's just me. However, we eventually find ourselves face to face with an alien. What a surprise, I know. Oh man, I am not liking how many bullets he takes. God, he's finally dead. I will say I do like Whistler's unabashed cowardice. Actually, this brings up a neat inclusion this game has. Remember how you can switch between Marines? Well, it doesn't just swap out the model and profile picture, it actually subtly changes the dialogue just to fit the character. I was actually curious to test this out. So with Whistler, his first reaction to a xenomorph is to be afraid and to want to run away. Then I tested it with someone like Cameron, and oh yeah, the dialogue's completely different here. He is completely focused on the mission and he doesn't think at all about retreating. This may seem like a tiny inclusion, but it goes a long way. I am down for making characters feel super expressive and unique. Such a wonderful inclusion by the developers. Alrighty, let's get a move on. We gotta go find that key card. And here we are at the crux of the game. Hunting for key cards, looking for equipment to let us into new rooms, and shooting at xenomorphs as they pop out of the ceiling. This formula is pretty much the basis of the entire game, although there are a few twists later on, just you wait. Now already I have a little gripe, I think? Maybe just a question. And I need to know if anyone else has felt this way, because I've noticed it constantly with Aliens games. Okay, Aliens and specifically Alien fans, can you help me figure this out? So we've had plenty of games that depict Marines shooting at xenomorphs in a pressurized environment, on a ship or a space station. But how come none of those games address the fact that the acid blood would simply eat away through the bulkhead and create a hull breach? In the first Alien, one single drop of blood was enough to burn away through a few levels. Apparently the reason the xenomorph even has acid blood in the first film was so that the characters had a reason to not use guns or any other piercing weapons, just to add to the tension.
It's got a wonderful defense mechanism. You don't dare kill it.
That's why Ripley can only spear the xenomorph right near the end when he's dangling out in space. Otherwise he would just burn through the escape pod. Now when we get to Aliens, that movie has all kinds of shooting. Xenomorphs are being blown apart in that movie like they're nothing. Except we're no longer in a pressurized vessel floating through space. We're on a planet that has mostly breathable air. Matter of fact, the one time that they're on a spaceship and they have to kill an alien, the alien queen, you'll notice how Ripley doesn't go for a gun to shoot at her. No, she puts on a power loader, grabs that queen just to throw her out of the airlock. Yeah, even aliens knew that if they shot at that queen with any kind of gun, she would just burn through the hull and kill all of them. But then when we get to any of the games, we have plenty of levels set in space missions, like on a spaceship, on the Sulaco, on a space station. Yet anytime you shoot an alien in that game, it doesn't simply burn through the hull and suck everyone out into space.
Correction, sir. That's blown out. Thank you, Data.
The first time I shoot at a xenomorph should be the end of the game. This is game over, man. Game over. I mean, I'll concede you can't have an Aliens game without shooting aliens, but come on, someone else has to have noticed this, right? Alright, well now we'll talk about the controls. At first, I want to say they're pretty solid. But even then, I still had some problems with how the game plays. But then I also thought that maybe the problem with the controls is just me, but after finishing the game, I'm still unsure. Well, the game is slow. Literally. Your walking speed is very slow. You move at a snail's pace, which I would complain about. However, the game gives you a sprint button that you can also shoot while doing. Except the problem is that the game makes you move slow for a reason. When you walk through a room to clear it out, you have a split second to react when the xenomorph jumps out of the walls to attack you. It's not too bad early on, but there are some brutal areas later in the game that just feel cheap. Oh yeah, look how fair this is. I should have known that opening this door would have spawned an alien that would have given me like a split second to react before I took damage. Oh yeah, that's totally fair. Anyways, there are a few other weapons in the game which we'll get our hands on later, but for now we have the pulse rifle. But hey, remember, this is a metroidvania. That's right, we have exploration, puzzles, backtracking, save rooms. Although, the save rooms work a little differently here. Instead of being checkpoints, they're actually just areas where you can stock up on ammo, regain health, swap out weapons and marines, and save your game. Marines themselves are scattered around the map, meaning that you can go find them as you explore throughout the game. Matter of fact, there's a lot of equipment and items that you'll get your hands on later in the game. A welder, flashlight. Early on, you get a motion detector, which is very helpful because it lets you see where certain aliens and people are. So it is pretty much vital that you have this thing turned on at all times. Into the vents. Wait, what? This is a boss? This section actually scared the shit out of me because I thought I was simply waltzing through an ordinary ventilation shaft, only I ended up in the boss room with a fucking queen alien. Oh shit, I am not prepared for this. I was kind of hoping at first that this was a complete accident, like I was able to explore the ship, but if I got too nosy, I could fall right into the alien hive without even realizing it. But no, sadly this was actually a scripted moment in the game, and the game wanted me to go here. I was hoping that this was a side path that I probably wasn't supposed to go to. Oh man, this boss fight is brutal. I was still learning the controls and the ropes of combat, so I got my ass kicked. Cameron ran out of ammo for his pulse rifle right in the middle of the fight, and I had to resort to my pistol. I think the thing that absolutely fucking sucks with this boss fight, and all boss fights that we'll see later in the game, is that you have no indication of a boss's health. Which, yeah, is par for the course for some 2D metroidvanias, but for this you get feedback on whether or not you're hitting it, but you don't see any health bar or damage indicator, which wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the fact that this fucker is a complete bullet sponge. Half the time when shooting at it, I had no idea if my bullets were even working. Like, did I maybe need explosives instead? I know some Metroid bosses are like that. Would that be the same here? What also doesn't help is how fast this boss is. Like, this room is pretty spacious. A lot of maneuvering for a boss battle, except you don't really have a lot of maneuvering because the queen is constantly on your tail. She is fast and she can jump everywhere, which also wouldn't be an issue if it weren't for this stamina. I'd keep sprinting away, except I can't go anywhere without running out of breath like a fat person on a flight of stairs. No, Cameron! Shit, I lost a Marine already? Well, I guess send out Paulson. Get in there, Paulson. Yeah, this is how respawns work. Normally in the game, if you die, you respawn at the last save station, but when you're fighting a boss, you literally spawn back in the boss room, except you're now down a Marine, which is such a weird way to handle respawning. Once a Marine dies, that's it. He's gone forever, which is odd because what's the point of a save room then? There's also a limited number of Marines in the game, period. Enough to definitely beat the game, don't get me wrong, but theoretically, it is possible to completely lose this game if you're out of lives. Which honestly, I don't like that fear hanging over my head the entire game. This also sort of defeats the purpose of save rooms, because if you die, you aren't sent back to where you were at a checkpoint. Instead, you just take control of a new character. Man, I don't know. While I like the idea of managing your Marine squad, this feels like such an unnecessary addition to the gameplay. Kinda like Wayforward were just doing something different for the sake of being different. I don't know, I kinda like my save rooms being these permanent safe checkpoints. If I die and that permanently negatively affects the rest of my save file, that is a pretty bad change, at least in my opinion. I just don't like it. This was also incentivizing me to use save states, just so I didn't lose any of my Marines. But hey, that's a discussion for later. Oh, also, when you respawn as a new Marine, they have all their ammo refilled. Great. Was that the only way the game wanted me to get more ammo? By just dying and coming back with a new Marine? Fuck, that's pretty cold. Anyway, the fight sucks, but with enough spray and pray, I finally kill her. Yeah, take that, you damn dirty bug. That's for Cameron. Oh, hey, boss man. Huh. The UPP have taken over LV-426 and have set up some AA guns, and are now apparently trying to capture some xenomorphs for themselves. Huh, the Union of Progressive Peoples. Apparently in the Aliens universe, they serve as a counter to the United Americas. Where the United Americas is basically the US on steroids, the UPP was meant to be the Soviet Union on steroids. While they never actually showed up in any of the films, they were apparently in an early screenplay of Alien 3, where they were meant to be the antagonists of that movie. Alien 3 went in some weird directions. But hey, this is kind of a neat reference. So let's go to LV-426. Well, already this is giving me a good vibe. Creepy ambiance, awesome interiors. Hey, I kinda love that background. Looks very SNES or GBA to me. Okay, fuck these guys. Their AI is so obnoxious to fight. They'll do this thing where they'll hide behind boxes and take potshots at you while you struggle to fire back at them. Like I have to basically hold the trigger and keep firing at them so that when they eventually stand up, they'll hit my crossfire and take damage. The AI is so cheap that this is what I have to resort to. Hey, a shotgun. I'm hoping this is going to be pretty good, you know, for close encounters. So my strategy actually turned into me running and jumping behind cover to fucking fire at them at point blank range before they could shoot at me. I also didn't realize until quite embarrassingly late into the level that I could also enter cover by pressing A, which the game never told me. Even still, this is so shit. Why am I playing a cover shooter in an Aliens game? Matter of fact, why are Aliens games in general so obsessed with having some enemy faction full of humans with guns that shoot at you? Why is this a trend? Also, this kind of sucks the air out of the room because we also have xenomorphs running around, yet none of these guys even care. To me, the scariness of Aliens was that the xenomorphs were this completely overpowering threat that was priority number one, no matter what. But with random generic soldiers, it feels so casual. Like, yeah, we know the aliens are out there, but we're just gonna have to worry about shooting at you instead. Ah, damn it. Shit, they are such a bad inclusion. Also, this shotgun is really not as good as I hoped it would be. Its reload is terribly long, and you gotta shoot at a xenomorph at point blank range just to get a kill. Sometimes that's problematic given how fucking fast and dangerous they are. God damn, the first new weapon we get, and it might be worse than the pulse rifle. But the level's not all that bad. I get to meet Henrik. Yeah, this is how you recoup lives, by finding these guys scattered all over. Well, he seems to be chugging that beer bottle pretty well, so sure, I'll recruit you. Welcome to the team. At least the level itself is a good change of pace. Some solid scenery, really good art direction. You know what? Yeah, let's talk about the graphics. What can I say? It's pixel art. I will say some of the areas look pretty great visually, although a handful look like generic sci-fi corridors that could be interchangeable with any other game. There are some areas, however, that really capture that look and feel of the movie. I think the level set in Hadley's Hope is a great example. The atmosphere is great, and the aesthetic is spot on. Lots of dark lighting and lots of blue. Yeah, blue. Aliens is a very blue movie. Matter of fact, James Cameron himself seems to be pretty obsessed with the color blue. Blue, 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 blue. So I think Aliens Infestation nails this. For a game that has very limited graphics, I think it captures the atmosphere of the movie pretty well. While the ship is a little more generic looking, LV-426 is done amazingly. I'll give it to you, game. This level looks awesome. Another thing I gotta give the game credit for is that it has some style. I mentioned the Marines earlier, but they all have these exaggerated comic book art style to them. So while the game has the feel of Aliens, it also has a flair of a comic book. I think it looks nice, and it gives every Marine a very expressive feel to them. They all have a lot of character. But yeah, a pretty decent looking game with some solid art direction and really nice pixel art. I can't complain. Well, after blowing up some more AA guns and doing something, we find ourselves running out of the base. Yeah, this section I basically just legged it through. Seemed like it was the smart thing to do. Now we get to drive an APC. Hell yeah. I was actually confused on what was going on until I realized that I had to aim and shoot using the touchpad. Oh, that's right, DS. I'm actually still not sure if this section is scripted or not. Like, I'm clearly taking damage, but I can't tell how much. And the APC looks like it's smoking and about to explode, but we crash. Except this is where we're supposed to crash, by the Juggernaut ship. So, I guess it was scripted. Oh shit, another boss? Already? Yeah, Space Jockey Xenomorph. This is actually a thing in the comics too. It even looks pretty similar as well. Except the game gives it a giant elephant trunk, so while it's meant to be scary and intimidating, it just comes across as goofy. Man, I should take that back. This guy is the toughest bastard yet. This is definitely worse than the previous boss too, because while that one had an arena that allowed you to jump up and around the boss as it's chasing you, here this is just a giant flat room. Sure, lots of space to run, but once you get to the edge, you gotta hold your ground until you can find an opening to run past him, which I still haven't figured out how to pull off without taking damage. And as if that wasn't bad enough, he's spraying acid at you. Fuck me. Yeah, I lost Henrik here. Once again, because I was low on ammo. I'll admit, this game is way harder than I thought it'd be. Jeez. Okay, come on, Whistler, let's beat this guy. Well, some more running and shooting. Again, no indication of how much damage I'm doing. And we finally beat him. Finally. Huh. Knife minigame unlocked? Okay. So we head back to the Sulaco where we find out that after just clearing out all the xenomorphs earlier, our guys accidentally brought on even more cargo from a Wayland-Yutani ship. Guess what it contains? Yep. Also, we get to meet Sean Davis, a Wayland-Yutani suit who wants to protect the cargo. Yeah, he's basically the Burke stand-in. Oh gee, I wonder if this suspicious corporate rep will in any way betray us later in the story just so he can smuggle out some xenomorphs. Gosh, I just wonder. I will say, I love how Johnston isn't having any of his shit, and she fires her gun in the air when he asks her not to kill the xenomorphs. Anyway, back through the Sulaco. It's kind of more of the same. We run into Fisher, a Marine who I found earlier but couldn't recruit because my team was full. Well, luckily for her, we now ominously have an opening. I love the casual nature of this. Like, yeah, my squad is all dead, so sure, I'll join you guys. Anyway, there's not much to talk about here. More basic backtracking, and even then, it is still keeping us on a pretty linear path, since a lot of the upgrades we can't even access until the next couple missions. Man, this is probably the most linear Metroidvania I've played. One thing of note is that I do find a flamethrower. Oh, hell yeah. Actually, never mind, I take that back. This might be the weakest flamethrower I've ever seen in a video game. Maybe the second weakest. I think what makes it worse is that this is the Aliens flamethrower. This might be one of the most famous weapons in science fiction, yet here is total trash. I expect this thing to rip through xenomorphs, but it has such bad DPS that in some cases it becomes a liability. You see, when you shoot it at a xenomorph, it'll temporarily set them on fire, which at first I thought was a damage effect. Like maybe it was doing damage to them over and over a few seconds. Except the more I look at the footage, the more I think that it may just be a visual animation, and it might not be doing any actual damage at all. Yeah, look at this guy, he's totally fine. So with the flamethrower, you're using this low DPS gun that has a pretty short range, and even if it hits an enemy, that enemy can still run around and attack you while also on fire. Fire that may or may not be doing damage to him, I don't know. This is no good. Its only use is that it can clear doorways. And yeah, I mean, it does feel nice to burn eggs and facehuggers. I'll admit this feels pretty good. I'll also say, while I was complaining earlier about how shooting the aliens with guns should be creating hull breaches all over the place, I think a flamethrower might be a remedy for that. Yeah, look, they don't bleed. They just kind of shrivel up like dead bugs. I'd be curious to know if this is scientific in any way. But yeah, the rest of the time it's just useless. So the two new guns that I found were a shotgun and a flamethrower, both of which are such liabilities that I'm just sticking with my pulse rifle. Wonderful. So glad I went out of my way to find these. Oh man, these controls are still pretty rough, and they're about to get worse. Because after some wandering, we find another queen. This one is much tougher than the last one. But luckily, we have a power loader. Oh yeah, now we're talking. And yeah, the game's basically going through fan service right now. But hey, I'm not complaining. I'm not doing that much damage to her. I actually gotta throw her out the air like the old-fashioned way. Sounds good to me. Well, that's way easier said than done. Oh, fuck me. Before I go into a rant, I have to bring up the controls once again. Okay, these controls are becoming a serious problem. I mentioned earlier how I thought the controls were pretty solid, but the more I play this game, the more I realize that there are a few issues that might seem small, but in practice are absolute death traps. Let's talk about aiming. It has some problems. Okay, here's a good example. Let's say you want to aim, I don't know, up and to the right. Well, in most Metroidvanias, specifically the most famous one of them all, Super Metroid, you have a separate button or a button combo to aim at a slight angle. While these controls are still limiting, especially to me, a guy who's been blessed by the amazing controls of a game like Abuse, it's still solid for a controller with only a D-pad, 4 buttons, and shoulder buttons. So you'd think that Aliens Infestation would have the exact same control scheme as Super Metroid. Nope. Instead, its controls are a little weird. For starters, there is no dedicated look up at an angle button. Instead, you have to hold both the forward and up buttons on a D-pad. I really don't like this because it feels so awkward to do. Now, if this were an analog stick, it might be a little better. But again, this is reliant on me having just the right precise input. In most situations, I accidentally look straight up because I'm panicking. Ironically, I think the best controller for this would be something like a GameCube controller or an N64 controller. You know, with those notches in the plastic so that it'll naturally rest at 45-degree angles. Why would Nintendo do this, you ask? Here, for games like this. This is also something that more modern 2D shooters do, and I hate it. A modern gamepad has way more buttons than an SNES controller. At least just buying one of those buttons to aiming up or down at an angle. For fuck's sake, it's not that hard. I think this wouldn't be a big deal if it weren't for the fact that the aliens will constantly run up the ceiling to try and flank past you, meaning that being able to hit them at this angle is pretty vital. Also, another problem is that you can't aim straight down. You can aim slightly down and forward, but not directly down. Which becomes a huge fucking problem when you reach multiple parts in the game where there's a pit full of facehuggers or xenomorph just chilling beneath your platform. And what can you do? Nothing. You can only shoot them at this very tiny angle, which you can't do because they're just going to run up to the platform you're at, so they're only going to be right below you. So all you can do is just jump down and lose health, nothing else. Oh, and another issue. I never thought I'd have a problem like this in any 2D shooter, but Alien Infestation introduces a control mechanic that has probably gotten me killed way too many times. The backup and shoot feature. Okay, so when you're shooting and holding down the fire button, if you press the D-pad in the direction that you aren't facing, instead of turning that direction, like you would in Super Metroid, you simply move backwards in that direction, facing the same way you're pointed at. This essentially lets you shoot while backing up. Okay, I kinda get why they added this. If a situation is going south, this gives you an ability to retreat while also giving yourself some cover fire. I actually mentioned this in my Abuse video. I like being able to shoot while running backwards. So you'd think I'd love this mechanic, right? No, I hate it. Do you know why? Because it's a fucking death trap. This backup feature is way too damn sticky. I mentioned how xenomorphs love to crawl in the ceiling above you and flank you, so there are many times in this game where you have to do a 180 quickly just to stop a xenomorph from getting around to your backside. This is not helped by the controls, because when I'm shooting at a xenomorph and he crawls up on the ceiling past me, my immediate reaction is to keep holding the fire button and turn around. But I can't do that because the game forces you to back up while shooting. You can't change directions while holding the fire button. As if that wasn't bad enough, there is a tiny, barely noticeable delay when you let go of that shoot button where the game still thinks you're shooting, even if you aren't. So you try and turn around to shoot at the thing that's about to fucking kill you, but instead of turning around, I just keep backing up into them. So before you can back up, you then have to take your finger off the fire button, wait a good moment, even just a millisecond, it's still noticeable, then you turn around, then you fire again. But not too quickly, otherwise it won't register, which I'm sure won't be difficult to do in the heat of a battle where you're panicking trying to press all the buttons. This goes for the rest of the controls as well. There's just this slight delay when performing actions that makes fast-paced fights way more frustrating than they had any right to be. Oh yeah, I'll just stop moving for 2 seconds before the game lets me perform an action. Which, hey, wouldn't bother me so much if the game didn't constantly throw me in these fucking split-second decision-making moments. Case in point, this fucking boss fight. Yeah, this one might be the single worst boss in the whole game. So to recap, we smack it around with a power loader. However, what you're actually supposed to do is you're supposed to push it to the left side of the room where there's an airlock that requires you to hit a bunch of buttons. Literally 9 of them. This boss fight sucks on so many levels. First, she is on your ass the entire time. Like, there is no reprieve where like maybe you could knock her out and then activate the buttons individually as she's stunned. No, you pretty much have seconds before she reaches you, which is great because these button animations take so fucking long, and if she manages to hit you even once, you get knocked out of the animation and the button resets, meaning you have to do it all over again. Think you can outrun her? Ha, fat chance. Look how she just strolls over and knocks me on my ass. Think you can outclimb her? Nope, she'll instantly jump up after you. Or if you try to drop beneath her, she'll drop on you instead. Which is great because thanks to how this stupid level was designed, some of the buttons are located directly beneath where her scripting will take her. And as a result, she'll just land on top of you and knock you out of the animation. Gah, fuck this boss. On my first attempt, I lost 2 of my Marines, Fisher and Johnston. Johnston was the worst because I got stun locked in a corner twice. Wow, thanks game. And then she died while I was trying to loop around to try and buy myself some time. Yeah, that didn't work. Fuck, really? Nope, nah, I'm redoing this. That's right, the benefit of emulation. I got save states. Now, as funny as this might seem, I really don't like breaking out save states, because it makes me feel like I'm not quite enjoying the game at its fullest. I don't at all hold this against anybody else. Like, if you want to cheat through a game, have at it. But me personally, I like to at least experience what the developers intended for me first. And then maybe on repeat playthrough, I'll go in with mods and features not available in the vanilla game. Hence why whenever I play a game for the first time, the only mods I'll install are very basic fan patches and optimization mods, stuff to fix bugs or just very minor visual alterations. That's just me. So when I have to break out save states on a first playthrough, that's a sign of me kind of giving up on the game's own balance. Like if the game's own save system isn't good enough, something has gone wrong. Well, I fight it a second time and fuck me, I lose Fisher already. Well, I still got Johnston alive and kicking. I think the one exploit I found was to juke the queen by constantly climbing up and down ladders, because she'll be locked in her animation for a couple seconds, either jumping up a level or jumping down, which might be barely enough time to hit the switch. And this is still finicky, because I lose a ton of health. But I finally hit that last switch. Yeah, enjoy the vacuum of space, bitch. Well, now I'm down a Marine. Great. At least I still have Johnston. She's got her bright red armor, which I like, so at least this wasn't a total loss. So we're off to the Wayland base on Phobos. Huh, an evil corporation doing unethical experiments on the moon of Mars that leads to an alien takeover is already getting a little too close to Doom's territory. Also, it's kind of a neat coincidence too, because the original Doom apparently started development as an Aliens game, so I guess it fits. Right away I bump into a new Marine, Heston. Well, good news for him, we're hiring. Oh yeah, this looks like the kind of guy I want on my side to kill bugs. I especially love the hint of craziness behind his glazed eyes. Welcome aboard. This area starts off creepy at first, although it gets pretty annoying fast. The beginning of the level is actually like really atmospheric. It's quiet and empty, a lot of sentry turrets, but no sign of life anywhere. Then all of a sudden you start encountering the new xenomorph type, gorilla xenomorphs. Huh. Guys, you do not want to return to monkey. Also, these guys are absolute bastards. Remember the backup and shoot controls that I mentioned earlier? Well, yeah, that's completely useless here. These guys are way faster than you even when you're sprinting, and they will run across the entire screen and charge right at you. So fast that you have barely any time to react. Nah. I keep moving through the base and I find another Marine. Chow. Oh man, we're going full 2011, huh? She's in bright pink armor, texting on her phone to the point of dysfunction, and using old internet acronyms as slang. Lols. Alright, keep at it, Private. You know what, let's talk about the music, as well as maybe sound design. Well, luckily this will be the shortest thing I'll have to cover. Music is serviceable at best, and annoying at worst. Same with the sound. The music implementation especially is so by the numbers that I think it actually makes the music border on bad entirely. Yeah, I'm not kidding. The actual tracks are just, they're not bad, they're not good either. Instead of being atmospheric and slow, the soundtrack here tries to go for bombastic and intense, so it comes off as pretty bad to listen to. What makes it even worse is that not only are these tracks like 1 to 2 minutes each, but they completely reset when you enter an area. Even if you move from one area with one music track playing to another area that's playing the exact same music track, they will reset. Like with Metroid, if music was the same between multiple rooms, it would at least carry over. Here though, you're going to be sprinting through multiple rooms and levels that you're going to hear the first 10 seconds of every single track over and over. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Personally, I wish the game just focused on atmosphere. Hey, this is a tip for small game developers. Can't afford a good composer? Well, just add in some good ambiance instead. Creaking of the ship, the wind of LV-426. You know, pretty basic stuff. Instead, all you get is your motion detector. Yeah, remember that thing? I didn't mention it earlier, but this will make a constant motion detector sound effect over and over non-stop for pretty much the entire game. At least as long as you have this thing out, which is going to be most of the time, since you'd be a moron to not have it equipped when you're moving room to room. Also, this is going to pull away the curtain a little. I added this ambiance in post. This is so you guys get at least a good creepy spooky vibe that the game failed to deliver. In actuality, the game sounds more like this. Well, some more wandering, more gorilla xenomorphs. Ugh. We eventually find a way to deactivate these turrets. Although I wish there was a way to reactivate them, but have them not shoot at us. Yeah, I would love a game that let me recreate that scene from Aliens where you set up the turrets and you have to hold out. But not here. Oh, and we also find a smart gun. Oh, hell yeah. Wait, is this just going to be another flamethrower situation? Maybe. The damage itself is good, and it's easy to hit enemies that are lower to the ground, like these gorilla xenos and some facehuggers. However, there's a charge up time from when I press the trigger to when the gun actually starts shooting, which I'm finding is really annoying, but also really dangerous. But hey, it was at this point in the game that I think it had enough of my bullshit and decided to pull out the knives. I think I was trying to upgrade my flamethrower as Whistler, only I then got swarmed by facehuggers. I still have no idea what's going on. I'm looking back at the footage and I want to say I was still hitting the button even though I clearly just died. Like this wasn't even a boss. I don't know what was going on. Well, I guess beggars can't be choosers. Let's go, Private. Your 2011 elite skills are needed elsewhere. Let's GTFO. Some more wandering, we head back up towards the base at the top level, and I also find an upgrade that I use for my smart gun just to see if it improves it in any way. And we face our fourth boss, an even bigger gorilla xenomorph. This guy is no fucking joke. He's the fastest fucker yet. He can bolt across the room and do this ground pound jump that is just slightly unpredictable. This smart gun is not helping either, because that windup time is so friggin' long that I have no chance to get off any shots before that alien beelines me and runs into me like a quarterback. I actually died twice during this boss fight and decided to retry my strategy. You see, after the flamethrower disappointment, I half expected the smart gun to be the same. So I reloaded a save state much earlier, just so I could reapply that same upgrade to a different gun. This time I was going to try the pulse rifle, not the smart gun. Time for a rematch. I think my reasoning here was that the pulse rifle may have worse damage, however, it does not have a charge up time. It also has a pretty reliable grenade launcher, so that's just even more ammo for me. So maybe instead of trying to do the most damage to it, I can simply beat it with speed. Well, this kinda works for a little bit, except once again, this guy is still too damn fast. I want to point out that I'm still fighting the controls here. Yeah, look at this, I'm trying to aim left and shoot, except the game's input delays are so horrible that even when I let go of the fire button quickly, it still points me right. Damn it. And I lose Heston. No, not Heston. However, this run I had done so well with the pulse rifle, I decided to keep this energy up and send out my newest recruit. Go get him, Chow. And I actually hold my own against him. Also, I'm not sure if this is a glitch, but the music completely cuts out in this part. Like, there's no ambience or anything, just the awkward sound effects in the middle of absolute silence. But hey, I finally kill him. Well, we get a radio from command telling us to head back to the Sulaco. Looks like there are even more xenomorphs to kill. Yeah, just a day at the Marine Corps. Back at the Sulaco. Ah, this guy again. Oh, what a shocker. He's actually evil and wants to capture the aliens so the company can study them and eventually use them as weapons. Oh, also now I have to fight a bunch of synths. Sorry, I mean artificial persons. Well, at least they don't shoot at me. But wow, now I have to stop the aliens from falling into another pair of wrong hands. You know, I think every entry in the Aliens franchise is contractually obligated to have a scene where Weyland-Yutani tries to smuggle away the xenomorphs for some nebulous use as bioweapons. But now we gotta find Davis, which to do that, we have to do a whole lot of backtracking. Along the way, I find a goth chick named Kennedy. I wasn't even planning to recruit her, I just happened to bump into her. And since I have an open slot, well, she's part of the team now. This actually became a little stressful since I know how the internet reacts towards goth GFs, so now I'm extra worried that if I get her killed, you guys aren't gonna forgive me at all. Well, let's play it safe then. Back to exploring. And guess what? The game actually becomes pretty fun here. This is the first time in the whole game where the entire ship is explorable. I can find the rest of the key cards, I have most of the upgrades. This is actually pretty great. This is the first time the game actually scratched that Metroidvania itch. Who knew that being forced down mostly linear levels wasn't fun in a Metroidvania? This part of the game feels like what the entire game should have been. Open exploration, backtracking, puzzle solving, all of that great stuff. Sadly, I can't enjoy it because I've already gone through the slog that is the first 80% of this game. Such a weird choice here. Usually games will front load the great stuff up front, and then have the more questionable stuff later on. Here though, it's the complete opposite, where the game starts off with some pretty bad and annoying levels, but then finally near the end it gives you the good stuff. Ugh, what a waste. Yeah, can you make the entire game this, please? I just want my open-ended Metroidvania. Is that too much to ask? Never mind. We're close to beating this thing anyway. Let's keep moving. It was also during this point in the game that I maxed out the upgrades on all of my weapons. And sadly, I'm just not feeling the difference. The guns feel slightly better, but it's not noticeable enough where it's night and day. I honestly think that maybe each upgrade does like 30% more damage, but even then that feels like too much, because 3 upgrades would practically double the gun's damage output, except it doesn't really feel that way. The pulse rifle and the smart gun feel pretty similar to how they started out as. So, I don't know. Also, every gun is maxed out at 3 upgrades, and this game, probably expecting players to just be stupid, decided to give you way more upgrades than you can actually fill up on. Yeah, these upgrades right here are ones that I literally cannot pick up or use whatsoever. All my guns are already level 3. This honestly made me feel like a complete tool for wanting to explore around the ship to find hidden upgrades, when I could have just stumbled on them normally. Damn it. Anyway, we gotta find Davis to stop him before he runs away with the cargo. Because of course Weyland-Yutani thinks that they can turn xenomorphs into bioweapons. Also, this brings up another gripe I have with the Aliens universe. Why the fuck is Weyland-Yutani so obsessed with turning xenomorphs into a bioweapon? Like, seriously, why? I'd understand if they were simply wanting to study xenomorphs. Like, sure, there's a whole lot you could do with a weird alien species that mutates to its host DNA. I'm sure with government contracts and research grants, you could at least make a little bit of profit. But how the hell do they think they're going to be able to use these as some kind of practical weapon? No, that's stupid. They're bugs. To me, it's as ridiculous as an arms company trying to train a bunch of bees. They don't follow commands or orders. Basically, the only way you can use them is to drop a bunch of xenomorphs on your target and then run out of there. Like, I'm genuinely asking, what scenario would a xenomorph be useful as any kind of weapon? Actually, don't answer that because I've thought about it already. First, you would not want to use them on any kind of war or civil unrest that takes place on the same planet as you. In this universe, Earth is still a multinational planet with multiple independent states. So if one country goes to war with its neighbors, I think xenomorphs might possibly be the worst possible weapon to use. Think about it. You either have to send in a bunch of ravenous xenomorphs, which you have to breed and keep safely contained, which is hard enough in and of itself, or you throw a bunch of facehuggers or eggs into a neighboring territory and hope the aliens breed up their numbers to eventually topple that government. Except I think if you get a xenomorph population strong enough to topple an entire army, then that might be game over for whatever planet you're on. Plus, what's stopping a xenomorph outbreak from simply crossing country lines and running back to your country instead? That might backfire. Which is even funnier because, I don't know about you, but I feel that a lot of military disputes are more so about territory and resources than anything else. Like, sure, if you wanted to destroy a country, the xenomorphs would probably be a good weapon. But what if you wanted to invade and get some of those resources? Or maybe just set up some military bases or some airstrips? Hell, expand your country's border. Listen, I've played Civ 5. I know what it takes when you go to war with another country. Well, then I think xenomorphs are probably the worst weapon to use. So any kind of conflict occurring between two states on the same planet? Nope. Or also, any kind of war where you need to invade and occupy another nation's territory. Nope as well. So that only leaves interplanetary conflicts, which even then, the only scenario I could see xenomorphs being viable in any way is by dropping them on a planet and letting them destroy the colony and local populace, but then simply leaving that planet off limits. Like, come on, you are never going to reclaim a colony when xenomorphs take it over. That shit is done, man. Look, even a thermonuclear explosion can't get rid of them. They sure seem pretty resilient. If you wanted to attack a space colony or inhabited planet as well as eventually occupy it, you know, to harvest resources, set up some military bases, stuff that an actual nation would want to do in a real war, then throwing a bunch of xenomorphs at it is not a solution. So coming back to my original question, the only viable use of xenomorphs as some kind of bioweapon is by taking out a colony you simply don't want to exist anymore. Not to capture it, not to invade it, not to take its territory. Nope, just to make that one planet unlivable. Which, hey, why not just nuke it from orbit at that point? I'm probably thinking way too much about this. Back to the game. We now find out that the ship is on a collision course with Mars. How it traveled this far from LV-426 is beyond me, but either way we have to stop it. Oh man, a complete xenomorph invasion of Mars? That honestly sounds like such an awesome Alien sequel. As much as that idea fascinates me on a personal level, we should probably try to stop that. You know, I was worried about her earlier, but I think I resonate with Kennedy here. Well, we just can't have aliens invade Mars because I think Starship Troopers already did that, so instead we gotta destroy the ship itself. Which to do this, we have to activate these miscellaneous switches all across the ship, which will do something. You know, at first I was gonna complain, like, why does Starship have a system that is this complicated? Like, why would it force you to run across the ship to these random rooms and hidden corridors just to blow it up? But honestly, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. I do not want the self-destruct button to be hit on accident. Well, we find out it was mostly all for nothing because we still can't blow up the ship. Wow, thanks for having me run all over the ship then. I like Kennedy. Well, now we have a spacewalk. Ah, geez, this section. Okay, so you lose access to your guns and you're forced to do these huge low-gravity jumps from these suspended platforms, all the while xenomorphs are jumping down to attack you. I think what makes this worse is that the camera is so fucking zoomed in that the xenomorphs will literally aggro on you when they're off screen. So you legitimately can't see when one's rushing towards you until it's too late. These large blind jumps are so fucking annoying. You just land on an edge where a xenomorph is already waiting for you as he tears you to shreds. Damn it. And the controls didn't help either. Since you're in space, you have no slowdown when you jump and move from left to right, so you basically have to course correct by moving in the opposite direction, which just ends up making you completely miss super easy jumps and platforms. God, this genuinely sucks. I found the best strategy was to hilariously keep firing from my infinite ammo gun ahead of me at all times before any xenomorph could even spawn in. I think this is when I had enough of the game's bullshit and I was just trying to cheese my way through this. The saving grace is that this section has the best music track in the whole game. It's not amazing, but it's the first track where I'm like, huh, this is kind of nice. Kind of creepy, but also soothing and atmospheric. Oh, also it sounds straight out of Metroid. In fact, it sounds so much like a Metroid track that I think it might actually be one. So for any other Metroid enthusiasts watching this, please give it a listen and let me know if you can hear a similarity. This part especially sounds super fucking familiar. I can't let it go. Either way, this space section is super annoying. Oh yeah, I am not ashamed to break out save states here. We finally get back inside to send the ship crashing to an unpopulated area. Except once again, Davis is there to thwart us. This time he's able to initiate an emergency override on the ship. It also causes the ship's alarms to start flashing, which means that the entire screen flashes red over and over until the final boss. Yeah, sorry, I'm not gonna let you experience the same eyesore that I had to go through. So with the power of editing, I skip ahead and we confront Davis. He keeps saying that we can't destroy the xenomorphs and that we lack vision. No, I think I have pretty good vision, Davis. I've already killed probably hundreds of xenomorphs in this game alone. I've seen them pretty clearly up close, more than you. And because this is an Aliens game, we get another queen. Much, much bigger this time. Yeah, sorry, Davis. Well, I will say this arena is at least manageable. We have multiple floors to climb up, explosive barrels, and a lot of sentry turrets that are now on our side. Hey, this isn't actually all that bad. It's kind of ironic that the best boss fight so far is literally the last one. Wouldn't be the first for a DS Metroidvania game, I'll tell you that much. Oh, fuck me, I lose Paulson. Once again, because I completely ran out of ammo. This is another test of endurance boss fight, where there isn't so much a challenge in shooting at her. However, it's more in the fact that it takes so long to whittle down her health. It's just a matter of time before you make a mistake. Well, fuck, I lost Paulson. Get out there, Kennedy. Go make my goth GF-loving audience proud. And from here, it's not too hard. Just running around, climbing up to where she can't reach me, and shooting at her below. Pretty straightforward. Boom. Nice. Well, no, we apparently need to get off ship because we knocked it off course, and we're also running out of oxygen? Also, there's this big explosion at the end, but I don't think my character dies. I don't know, this is such a weird ending. I was expecting like a timer or something, where my main character had to run to the dropship to escape. But no, the game just immediately cuts to credits. Aliens Infestation. Also this credit song.
Aliens just stayed inside a living human host and have some concentrated acid for blood.
So that's the game. A fun little Metroidvania with a nice aesthetic, frustrating sections, good old nerdy fan service, and honestly, that's about on par with any Aliens game. But man, some of those sections were such a slog. I was actually going to end the video by saying this is the best Aliens game ever made, except after replaying again with a more cynical adult brain, I'm not so sure anymore. Like, yeah, it was definitely fun at parts, a little atmospheric, just with really weird gameplay decisions and enemies that made me doubt if I even still love the game, or if I just kinda tolerate it. I guess as far as just Aliens games go, this might be the best one. I mean, Colonial Marines was pretty awful. I never played Fireteam Elite since it looked kind of generic, and no one I knew played it. Also, it's questionable if the Aliens vs Predator games even count. In which case, either AVP or AVP2 take the top spot. But even then, that's questionable because to me, those games are almost cheating because they have not one, but two famous horror movie monsters as part of its premise. Granted, those games mostly feel like they're set in the Aliens universe that just so happens to have predators running around. I will say, while I think the game itself is just mediocre, the 2010 AVP game has a human campaign, and I think those early levels are some of the best Aliens and Marines content in any game ever. Just give me an entire game like that, please. But yeah, Aliens Infestation. I respect the ambition, the art style's pretty good, the concept I think is really solid and works as a game. It's just that the execution and a lot of the sections are just unfun to play, and they really dampen the whole experience. Seriously, if the whole game was just Metroidvania exploration and none of those side levels, then I think it could have been a great game. But alas, I guess not. Well, that's the video. Stay tuned for next time for another DS horror game, although this one is a little different. That's right, we are just starting Halloween. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a wonderful October. Thanks for watching. You all have a good one.
Say they have to get up before 26. And you get from orbit like corporal Hicks. For they know whoever said that there's no real monsters. Never battled with an alien.
Trust me.